Look, if you're broke, if you're stuck, if you're grinding day after day and not seeing results, I'm gonna tell you why. It's because you're missing one skill, just one, and it's not the one you think. It's not working harder. It's not being smarter. It's not even passion or purpose. It's the only skill that actually makes money, and until you master it, you'll keep spinning your wheels. Today, I'm gonna break it down for you. No theory, no feel. Good nonsense. Just the truth about the only skill that prints cash in the real world. Money follows value. Earn to sell value, not time. This is the core of making money in any business, any industry, any era. Most people stay broke because they confuse time with value. They think the hours they work somehow equal what they should be paid. But the market doesn't care about your hours. The market rewards outcomes. The faster you can produce an outcome that someone wants, the more valuable you are. If you can generate a result in 10 minutes that another person takes 10 hours to produce, you deserve to be paid more, not less. But most people have this backwards. They're so stuck in the idea of trading time for money that they never learn to package and sell the value they actually create. And that's why they stay in the same place year after year. You don't get paid for effort. You get paid for solving problems. The bigger the problem you solve, the more money you make. This is why a brain surgeon makes more than a janitor. Both might work hard. Both might put in the same hours, but the problems they solve are not equal in value. The brain surgeon solves life-threatening problems. The janitor solves cleanliness problems. One of those has higher stakes and higher value in the eyes of the person paying. That's what the market rewards. It's not about fairness. It's about value. Once you understand this, you stop thinking about how hard you're working and start focusing on how to solve bigger problems faster and for more people. Time is a trap. If you stay focused on selling hours, you cap your earning potential. You only have so many hours in a day. Even if you work every waking hour, there's a hard limit on what you can earn. But when you sell value, you break that ceiling. You can create something once that delivers value over and over again. A good offer, a system, a product, a service that scales. When you stop selling time and start selling value, you finally position yourself to make real money. That's why people who own businesses, create offers, or build systems end up wealthier than those who just clock in and out every day. Another reason people struggle is because they don't know how to communicate the value they bring. You might be great at what you do, but if you can't explain why it matters to the person paying you, you're invisible. The market doesn't pay for invisible value. It pays for perceived value. The way you position, package, and present what you do determines how much you earn. This is where sales and marketing come in. You have to learn how to take what you do and show people why it's valuable to them, why it solves their problem, why it's worth paying for, because people don't buy time. They buy solutions. A lot of people think that just being good at what they do is enough, but if that were true, the best paid people would always be the most skilled, and that's not how it works. The best paid people are the ones who know how to take their skill, package it as value, and sell it. You have to stop focusing on getting better at your craft in isolation and start focusing on how that craft translates into value in the marketplace. If nobody wants what you're good at, or if nobody understands why they should pay for it, it doesn't matter how good you are. You have to bridge that gap. That's where money comes from. It follows value, not time, and value only exists when someone else believes it solves their problem. Attention is worthless without conversion. A lot of people chase attention. They want more followers, more views, more likes, more shares. They think if they just get enough eyeballs on what they're doing, the money will come. But it doesn't work like that. The internet is full of people who have massive audiences and are still broke. Why? Because attention by itself doesn't pay the bills. It's conversion that makes money. Conversion means turning that attention into action, into buyers, into clients, into deals closed. That's what matters. That's what separates people who look successful from people who actually are successful. You could have 1 million followers, but if none of them buy what you're offering, what's the point? People think the game is just to get noticed, but getting noticed is step one. If you stop there, you're just noise. The marketplace is flooded with noise. Everyone is shouting, posting, going viral, trying to get seen. But very few people know how to convert that attention into something that matters. They don't know how to make an offer. They don't know how to ask for the sale. They don't know how to take the interest they've built and turn it into a transaction. That's the real skill. That's where the money is. Attention is just raw material. Conversion is the finished product, and the value is in the finished product, not the raw material. The mistake people make is thinking attention equals demand. It doesn't. Just because people see you doesn't mean they want what you have. Just because they like your post doesn't mean they'll buy your product. There's a massive difference between someone being entertained by you and someone trusting you enough to give you their money. Conversion is about building that trust. It's about showing people why what you have solves their problem better than anything else. It's about making it easy for them to say yes. You can't just grab attention and hope. You have to guide people. You have to lead them from interest to action. That's the conversion path. That's where the skill comes in. That's what the top earners focus on. Attention can actually be dangerous if you don't know how to convert. Because you start to believe your own hype. You start to think you're winning because people are watching. But attention without conversion is just an illusion. It feels good, but it doesn't pay. The people who make real money are the ones who obsess over the conversion, not the attention. They ask, how do I take someone who's looking at me and get them to take out their wallet? How do I solve their problem so well they can't say no? How do I make an offer so good they'd feel stupid not to buy? That's what they think about. That's what they test, refine, improve. Not how many likes they're getting, not how many followers. None of that matters if you're not converting. People will say they need to build a bigger audience before they can make money. That's a lie they tell themselves to avoid learning how to sell. If you can't convert a small audience, a bigger audience won't help. It'll just magnify the problem. You'll have more people watching you fail to sell. The size of the audience doesn't fix weak conversion. The only thing that fixes weak conversion is getting better at converting, learning how to present an offer, learning how to create urgency, learning how to ask for the sale, learning how to handle objections. All the attention in the world is worthless if you can't do that. Conversion is where the real game is played. Conversion is what makes attention valuable. No skill beats the ability to close. This is the skill that separates people who make real money from those who just play business. Closing is the moment where value meets money. It's where all the marketing, all the attention, all the effort pays off. People who can't close stay broke, no matter how talented they are. They might have great ideas, they might work hard, they might even build something incredible. But if they can't get someone to say yes and hand over money, none of it matters. Closing is the point where intention turns into transaction. It's the one skill that directly puts dollars in your pocket. Most people are afraid of closing because it forces them to face rejection. They like talking about their product. They like showing off features. They like building fancy presentations. But when it's time to ask for the sale, they hesitate. They dance around it. They hope the buyer just volunteers to pay. That's not how it works. The people who make money are the ones who are willing to ask. They don't wait. They don't hope. They ask, and they keep asking until they get an answer. And if the answer is no, they find out why. They handle the objection. They clarify the offer. They make it so good the person can't say no. That's what closers do. Closing is a skill that can be learned. It's not about being pushy. It's not about using tricks. It's about understanding what the other person wants, showing them how what you offer gives it to them, and asking for the deal. It's about leading. People want to be led. They want someone confident enough to guide them through the decision. That's what closing is. It's leadership in action. If you can close, you can make money in any market, you can sell any product, you can build any business, because at the end of the day, every business comes down to getting people to say yes. People think closing is just for salespeople, but closing happens everywhere. When you're hiring someone, when you're negotiating a contract, when you're pitching investors, when you're setting terms with a vendor. Every part of business involves closing. If you can't close, you leave opportunity on the table. You leave money on the table. You watch deals fall apart that should have been won. The best closers don't rely on luck. They don't rely on timing. They create outcomes. They control the conversation. They drive it to the point where the decision gets made. The ability to close gives you freedom. When you can close, you're never dependent on someone else to save you. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions. You don't have to rely on someone handing you an opportunity. You can create opportunities by finding people with a need and leading them to a decision. That's power, that's control, that's how wealth is built, and the people who master this skill never worry about where their next dollar is coming from, because they know how to go out and get it. They know how to turn conversations into cash. They know how to take a maybe and turn it into a yes. Closing isn't about pressure, it's about clarity. It's about making it clear to the buyer that what you have solves their problem. It's about removing doubt, removing confusion, and making the path forward obvious. People hesitate when they're uncertain. The closer's job is to eliminate that uncertainty, to make the choice simple, to make the value undeniable. That's why no skill beats the ability to close, because it's the skill that moves the needle. It's the skill that gets results. It's the skill that directly impacts how much money you make. Offers matter more than ideas. Everyone thinks they need a great idea to make money. They sit around waiting for inspiration, hoping for that one magic idea that will change their life. But the truth is, ideas are everywhere. Everyone has ideas. What separates those who win from those who don't is their ability to craft an offer that people actually want to buy. The market doesn't reward ideas. The market rewards offers that solve problems in a way people are willing to pay for. That's the difference between people who dream and people who build. The people who build know that ideas are cheap, and execution is about creating an offer that's so good it feels like a no-brainer. An idea can sound amazing in your head or look great on paper, but that doesn't mean anyone cares. The market doesn't care how clever you think your idea is. It cares about what's in it for them. What problem does it solve? How fast does it solve it? How easy is it for them to say yes? That's what matters, and all of that comes down to the offer. The offer is how you package and present the solution. The offer is what makes people pay attention, trust you, and take out their wallet. You could have the best idea in the world, but if you don't know how to turn it into an offer that connects with the buyer's needs and wants, you won't make a dime. People waste time trying to protect their ideas, trying to keep them secret, worried someone will steal them. That's not where the value is. The value is in your ability to take that idea and craft an irresistible offer, because even if someone copies your idea, they still have to know how to sell it. They still have to know how to position it in the market, how to communicate it in a way that makes people say yes. That's the hard part, and that's the part most people never learn. They focus on having the right idea instead of learning how to create the right offer. And that's why they don't win. A good offer makes an average idea valuable. A weak offer makes even the best idea worthless. People don't buy ideas, they buy solutions that are easy to say yes to. The offer is what makes it easy to say yes. It's the combination of the product, the price, the promise, the guarantee, the urgency, the bonuses, the way it's presented. All of that together is what creates the perceived value in the buyer's mind. That's what makes the difference. That's what gets someone to go from interested to sold. The people who understand this don't waste time chasing the next big idea. They focus on how to take what they have right now and package it better. How to make the offer stronger, clearer, more compelling. The skill of building great offers is what separates people who make money on purpose from people who get lucky once. Because if you can create a great offer, you can do it again and again. You can take any product, any service, and figure out how to position it in the market so that people want it. That's real power. That's a skill that lasts. And that's why offers matter more than ideas. The marketplace is full of people with ideas. Very few of them know how to build an offer that converts. Very few of them know how to package what they do in a way that makes people want to buy now instead of later. Very few of them know how to make an offer that's so good people would feel stupid saying no. Master communication, confuse no one. If you want to make money, you have to be able to communicate clearly. People don't buy what they don't understand. People don't take action when they're confused. Every time you create confusion, you lose. The clearer you are, the more money you make. It's that simple. The marketplace rewards clarity because clarity builds trust. When you can explain what you do, how it helps, and why it matters in simple terms, people listen. When you make it complicated, they tune out. They don't have time to figure it out. They move on to someone else who can make it easy for them. This is where most people mess up. They think being clever or sounding smart will help. It doesn't. It hurts. Because the goal isn't to impress. The goal is to get the other person to understand and act. You see this all the time in business. People write long, complicated copy. They use fancy words. They pile on features. They try to make themselves look big, and in doing that, they lose the customer. They make it harder for the customer to see the value. The customer shouldn't have to work to figure out why they should buy. That's your job. Your job is to make it obvious. Your job is to take what might feel complex and break it down so it feels simple. The best communicators don't use more words than they need. They don't try to sound important. They focus on making the message land. They focus on making sure the person they're talking to gets it right away, because that's what moves people to act. Clear communication is about empathy. It's about seeing the world through the customer's eyes. It's about asking, what do they care about? What do they need to know to say yes? What's going to help them feel confident in the decision? What's going to remove their doubt? When you start thinking that way, you stop talking about yourself and your product so much. You start talking about the customer, about their problem, about their pain, about how you can help. That shift is what makes communication powerful. That shift is what makes people want to buy, because now it's not about you. It's about them, and that's what they care about. Every word you use either brings the customer closer to a yes or pushes them further away. There is no neutral. That's why great communicators are ruthless about cutting out anything that doesn't help. They don't waste time on fluff. They don't distract the customer with things that don't matter. They stay focused on the message that moves the needle, on the words that create action, on the sentences that close the gap between problem and solution. That's the game, and the better you get at it, the more money you make, because the market pays for clarity. The market pays for people who can take what's complex and make it simple. The market pays for people who don't confuse, who don't complicate, who don't create friction. When you master communication, you control the conversation, you set the frame, you guide the customer's thinking, you make it easy for them to see the path forward. That's what leaders do. That's what closers do. That's what people who win in business do. They don't hope the customer figures it out. They show them, they make it clear, they make it simple, they make it easy to say yes. That's what communication is for. That's what drives results. And that's why mastering communication is one of the most valuable skills you can have. Because at the end of the day, confused people don't buy. Confused people don't act. And if you want to win, you can't afford to confuse anyone. If you can't ask, you can't earn. This is one of the simplest truths in business and in life, but it's the one that trips up the most people. People are afraid to ask. They're afraid to ask for the sale. They are afraid to ask for the price they really want. They are afraid to ask for help. They are afraid to ask for introductions. They are afraid to ask for what they need to move forward. And that fear keeps them broke, because money follows action. And if you don't ask, you don't create action. You leave it up to chance. You hope the other person just volunteers to buy, or to give you the deal, or to offer the opportunity. But that's not how it works. The people who win are the people who ask, over and over, without hesitation. Asking is where value gets exchanged. Until you ask, nothing happens. You can have the best product, the best service, the best offer, but if you don't ask for the deal, you won't get it. You won't get paid for just showing up. You won't get paid for just having something good. You get paid when you ask for the sale and the other person says yes, and the more you ask, the more yesies you get. It really is that simple. The reason most people don't make the money they want is because they're waiting for permission. They're waiting for the right time. They're waiting for the perfect words. They're waiting until they feel comfortable. And in all that waiting, they miss the opportunity that's right in front of them. People tell themselves stories about why they shouldn't ask. They don't want to seem pushy. They don't want to look desperate. They don't want to make the other person uncomfortable. But all of that is in their head. All of that is fear talking. The truth is, asking is service. If what you're offering solves a real problem, asking is the best thing you can do for the person on the other side. Asking gives them the chance to say yes to a solution. Asking gives them the chance to improve their situation. Asking gives them clarity about what's possible. If you believe in what you're offering, you should want to ask. You should feel a responsibility to ask, because not asking means leaving people stuck with their problem. The people who earn the most are the people who ask the most. They don't let fear stop them. They don't take no personally. They don't hesitate to put their offer on the table. They know that asking is a numbers game. The more you ask, the more yesies you get, and every no just brings you closer to the next yes. That's how they think. That's how they operate. They ask with confidence. They ask with clarity. They ask knowing that the right people will say yes and the wrong people don't matter. They don't waste time overthinking it. They ask, they adjust, they ask again. That's how deals get done. That's how money gets made. If you can't ask, you stay invisible. The world doesn't know what you want unless you say it. The world doesn't know what you have to offer unless you put it out there. You can't expect people to read your mind. You can't expect them to chase you down and beg to give you money. That's not how business works. Business works when you ask, when you make it clear what you want. When you make it clear how you can help, when you make it clear what the next step is, that's what drives outcomes. That's what moves you from hoping to earning, because asking is the bridge between potential and profit. And if you want to earn, you have to be willing to ask.